Hello everybody, welcome back to another project video. In this video we're going to learn how to make some leather coasters. Alright, as always for these coasters I want to go over the tools and supplies and everything that you are going to want for this project. First off is the pattern. This pattern is available on my Patreon, so make sure you go over there and pick that up. You're going to want some leather. I'm using a 8-ounce veg tan leather here. And then for tools, as always, you're going to want your maul. This one is optional, but a draw gauge, which is similar to a strap cutter, but you're definitely going to want a draw gauge and not a strap cutter for this project. And all, I'm using a number 2 edger. You're going to want a knife, anything for slicking edges. So I've got this wood burnisher here, I've got water, I've got a rag, and I have some beeswax. And then if you're going to be dyeing it, I'm going to just do an antique finish on this one, but if you're going to be dyeing it, you're going to want your dye or antique and your top coat. So let's get started. Now, if you've done any leather work before, you're probably wondering what the heck a draw gauge, which is like a saddle maker's tool for cutting out stirrup leathers, has to do with using coasters or making coasters. And the reason is you never really make one coaster at a time, and in the mindset of efficiency, it's easier to just set this to 4 inches and strip off a 4-inch strip and then cut your coasters out of that. All right, so I got a pair of pliers here so that I can open up this draw gauge, set it all the way out to 4 inches, and clamp that down, tighten that up. And this is kind of the extreme edge of my draw gauge here, as you can see. But this isn't super thick leather for a draw gauge, so I'm not super concerned. But you're going to make sure you have a straight edge already cut into your leather. And you're going to line it up and start your cut. And let me tell you, using a draw gauge at its full 4 inches is not easy in the slightest. Make sure you have a good sharp blade. There's one strip of 4 inches. I'll do one more just for good measure. Heck, you know what? I might do one more even after that. Okay, so now that I have, oops, try not to drop your tools. Okay, now that we have these all cut to 4 inches in width, we can just take the coaster pattern, lay it on there, and mark off for each individual coaster. When I do coasters, I make them in a set of 4. So let's see how many sets I can get out of this. There's 3. Four, so that's 1 set. There's another 2. 3 and 4. So I'm going to be able to get 2 sets of 4 coasters, so 8 coasters in total out of this leather that I just cut here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my knife and I'm just going to cut on those lines I made. So we will have 8 squares, and then after that I will go through and I will round the corners. All right, so now these are all cut out. Yeah, perfect 4x4 squares. You might have saw me go through again with my pattern and just trim up anything, make sure everything's good to go and that all of them are true to size. The next step is I'm going to put my pattern back on top and I'm going to round or mark the corners and then cut them so that they're rounded off. Now, if you have one of those corner knives that Weaver Leather Supply sells, I do not, but if you have one of those, this is a great thing, great project to use them for, because basically, let me grab the closest thing I have to one. This is an end punch, but basically you just stick it on the corner and push, because it's a knife, not a punch, and you just push and it'll trim your corner off for you right at a perfect arc. And they have all different diameters and everything, but I'm just going to go through now and mark all my corners and then cut them out. Okay, now that I've got all of these cut out, there's one tool that I forgot to mention at the start of the video, which is some sort of sanding tool. And the reason why is because as close as, you know, we try and be, and let me try and get these as flush as with each other as I can. There are going to be some little discrepancies in your cuts on each coaster. So each coaster is just going to be a little bit different. And it would help if these would stop trying to curl because the leather was rolled. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to use this Dremel and I'm going to go over all sides of all of these. I'll probably do like 4 at a time so that each set matches. I'm just going to sand my edges so that everything is perfectly flush. All right, so one thing I do want to do for these coasters is tool them. So I'm going to be using this Celtic, not craft aid from Tandy Leather. Don't be sleeping on Tandy's craft aids, guys, because they make life really easy, and it makes it really easy to make things look good. So I'm going to tool this up real quick. I'm just going to do the one for the video, but all of these will be tooled to match, and then we will be ready to kind of start finishing up this project. All right, so I got that tooled up real quick. The next step is going to be to edge bevel it. So like I said, I'm using a number 2 edge beveler on this, and I'm only going to bevel the top side. And the reason is because when you're using it, it's going to lay flat on the table, so I don't want to have it undercut under here. So it'll kind of work like that. So now that that's beveled, I'm going to put some neatsfoot oil on this, and then we will start adding some color. All right, so I'm using Fibing's 100% pure neatsfoot oil. They also sell something called neatsfoot oil compound. I do not recommend using that on leather, especially anything with stitches in it, because that will rot your stitching. But I'm going to oil this whole thing. I'm going to hit the edges too, and then I'm going to hit the back side just once, just for have a nice little coat here. But this is going to do two things. First off, obviously leather and oil love each other, and so it's going to be good for your leather, but also it's going to give it a nice color. So I'm going to let that soak in for a couple minutes, and then we will antique this. Okay, so I've given this a couple seconds, or a couple minutes rather, to soak in, and I've got my cardboard down and I've got my gloves on. I know I showed in the beginning of the video Fibing's tan coat. I changed my mind. I decided to go with the Pro Resist. The reason being is because the Pro Resist is a little bit firmer of a sealant. It's a lacquer based sealant, and so it's gonna hold up more against water if anything spills on this, since obviously this is a coaster. The only drawback is, which I don't really consider a drawback for this particular project, the only drawback is you cannot oil through Pro Resist. But needless to say, we're gonna smear some of this on, get a nice coating over the surface, and then I'm gonna take my this is Fibing dark brown antique finish. I use a little knife and I just work that in. I'm going to go over the whole piece and the edges. I'm working on rubbing this down into all the little details of the tooling that I did. And then I'm going to wipe all the excess off. Just like that. I do need a little bit more on my edges. I'm just using my finger to just grab a little bit of antique at a time and just make sure I get this all over the edges. And then I'll grab the excess. Then I'm going to buff it just like that. And then the last step, and this all goes kind of quickly, is I'm going to put a top layer of resist on, and I'm also going to put it on the back side just to make sure everything has a nice finish to it. And then same thing, I will wipe away the excess. There we go. Now we've got a little bit of contrast going on there. Nice darker color down in the depths of that tooling. All right, and now for the last step on this project, which is going to be to burnish our edges. So I'm going to take some water, get that on the edge, rub some beeswax over it. You can use either the burnishing tool, this one's from Tandy, or you can use what I actually prefer, or have started to prefer, which is a piece of canvas or denim cloth. And there it is. I'm just going to hit up all sides, and you're looking for these to get nice and smooth to the touch and also shiny. And what I would do, or what I will do when I do batches of these, is I'll hold a couple of them together and just rub my cloth over the whole thing, just to make my life a little bit more efficient. just like that. All right, guys, that's making these coasters. Thank you all for watching. I hope you decide to follow along. Make sure you go over to my Patreon and subscribe to the leather rights tier, so you can download the pattern for these coasters as well as a bunch of other patterns. All of the patterns on my Patreon are free if you are a subscriber. If you're wanting to buy these coasters that I made, these are only available in January 2025. These are my or January 2026 rather. This is my product of the month for that month. And if you've missed that window at the time that you're watching this video, I guess you're gonna have to learn how to make them yourself. But thank you everybody for watching, and I will see you soon.